What it do, baby? We're back after 2 weeks of a long 2 weeks, man. I'll talk about it probably later videos, but let's get to the point. There's been a lot going on. Andor season 2 has come out. 6 episodes are out by now, and it's phenomenal in my opinion. There's a lot of downsides I could see where people might grift on it, and if I'm going to listen to a grifter, if I'm going to listen to someone that is just enjoys burning things down, I'm gonna go to the YouTuber that does it best, in my opinion, at least. There's a lot of people outing themselves in the Star Wars community right now with the Andor season 2, but I don't expect anything less than complete hatred from Critical Drinker when it's anything really. So let's go.
If there was one slightly cleaner patch in the filth-encrusted toilet bowl that is Disney Star Wars, then it was Andor, Tony Gilroy's prequel to the events of Rogue One. Yeah, it was a slow burn to be sure, sometimes to its detriment, and I'd be lying if I said the protagonist was the most charismatic guy I've ever followed, but after the cinematic calamities that have been visited on us in recent years, it was a refreshingly dark, intelligent, and mature take on the Star Wars universe.
100%. Andor was hard for me to get into at first as well. I'm a huge fan of Andor season 1, and actually this scene right here is why. The prison arc is phenomenal. I fell in love with it, and it carried the show in my opinion. Now the whole season as a whole I think is very good, but I have not gone back and watched it a second time. So I've only seen it the first time, and like I said, it was slow to get into. I fell asleep watching episode 2. Had to rewatch it. Shit happens, but hey, I liked it, and so far, so good with season 2. We'll get into it because he's only seen the first 3 episodes. And there was a lot of people that I did not expect to hate this show. And they did. And they kind of attacked the fandom of Andor, trying to act like Andor's fandom is, Star Wars fandom in general. It's just such a push and shove. If you don't like something or you do like something, people are passionate about Star Wars, so naturally they get mad either way. It's like, I want it to feel like Star Wars. It's like, I want Star Wars to branch out and lift its wings. Disney's been trying to do that. They've tested a lot of different things, and some things have worked better than others in my opinion. Your opinion might be different, but I think Andor was a solid strike. Now the budget for season 2 is another story. We'll get there.
It made the Empire threatening again. It provided a welcome insight into the vast bureaucracy that keeps it all running.
Yes.
It told grounded human stories of personal sacrifice,
character development. It was lived in, man.
Difficult moral choices, and
yes.
the thousands of tiny unmarked battles and
that's
forgotten
not one.
heroes who would eventually...
I'm not gonna lie, I thought that was Boba Fett at first because of the speeders. I had flashbacks to the Boba Fett season. Okay, yes. Never mind, this is Andor season 1.
Changed the fate of the entire
False
galaxy.
alarm.
Most importantly, it showed
But
that
boy,
Star
God.
Wars could be more than just lightsabers and space battles and pseudo-philosophical wannabes prattling on about the Force. So I was pretty excited to delve back into the world of Andor for Season 2, which released its first block of 3 episodes a couple of days ago. And
Yeah?
now that I've seen it, I can confidently say that, wow, this one's got off to a bit of a rocky start. Now, before
That's
I
what
really
they're
get
all
into
saying.
this, I want to caveat my criticisms by saying that as flawed as it is, it's still miles better than almost anything else Disney have ever done.
I think that's dude, I'm coming from Acolyte. Oh my goodness, the storytelling is so much better. Also, I did not fall asleep watching the first 3 episodes. They were not as fast paced as a lot of people probably expected from the trailers. I feel like it followed Andor season 1's story progression and pacing pretty well. And I think it was well written, well performed, everything all the way through. I'm actually a fan of the first 3 episodes. There are some parts that did irritate me, pulled me out of it. Like, for instance, when you see a TV, like, really, it's Star Wars and we're seeing a TV, and it's like one of those box TVs where it's like the futurist aspect of it. They try to make it like chrome and throw some weird buttons on there. I mean, maybe they think the people that are watching Star Wars don't know what box TVs are. I do. My generation is probably the last generation that will actually understand that. It's probably going to be like, when you're talking to people from the next generation about like how our parents told us about having phones, but they weren't cell phones, or having that big block phone. I don't know anything about that. I see that in old classic movies I used to watch, right? But seeing that TV in Star Wars, nah. Now that took me right out of it. I was like, what? And then there were some characters thrown in this season that I didn't recall who they were from the first season because they just did not resonate with me, or it's been a while, whatever it might be. So I'm gonna go watch Rogue One. God, I keep saying Rogue One. Such a good movie, though, by the way. How many reshoots did it take? It doesn't matter. They got it right. It's like delaying a video game. You got to delay until you get everything right. I wish a lot more projects would have that mentality. But, yeah, it was... I don't even know what... I just blanked. Let's continue.
With Star Wars,
Jesus.
which I realize is a bar so low that even Peter Dinklage could vault over it with ease, but what the fuck? This is a problem very much of
Yeah, he's getting a lot of hate for not liking Star Wars.
Them for it. I've also been reliably informed that the first trio of episodes are by far the weakest of the series, and it does get better from here, so I'm not passing judgment on the whole season just yet.
Yeah.
But the fact is that a lot of people are going to form their opinions of this show after one episode, never mind 3, so
I think he brings up a great point about people forming their, just judging it from the get-go. And that, I think, follows into the budget of this season. Because you have a show that I think was phenomenal. Season 1. Phenomenal piece of material that you've made with Disney. And especially compared to all other projects, it just holds up very, very well, in my opinion. And you have that. And it didn't seem like it was like a really big mainstream Star Wars project. Obviously, it doesn't have lightsabers, like, Mando. But it doesn't have Grogu either. And it just didn't have that same pop that Mando had. And so, since it's not like mainstream, a lot of the normies, like my parents haven't seen the show, my grandparents, and those are like the people that raised me on Star Wars. They're the ones that will go watch Star Wars. But they'll go watch a Marvel movie. It's like the Avengers movie, you know what I mean? But they're not going to watch all the extra shows, right? They watched Mando, though. They did watch Mando. And since you have that audience that's not really pulling in, I don't think, a wide audience from the get-go. I don't know. I'll have to look at the stats. I'm going off. I don't have all the stats in front of me, right? Comment down below if I'm wrong anywhere. If there's some stats that can prove otherwise. I don't know if investing this much money into a TV show for a second season is the best idea. I just don't. Like, you think that the first season is going to be the most popular season. But yeah, I don't know. But the first 3 episodes I think are definitely the weaker of the bunch out of the 6 that are out so far. But I don't think they're bad.
it was important for Andor to hit the ground running with this one, and unfortunately, it stumbles. The season kicks off in the most tonally jarring way possible, with Cassian infiltrating an Imperial base to steal a prototype TIE fighter. The only problem is that he's got no idea how to fly it, which results in a wacky chase sequence that
hilarious.
feels like it was lifted straight out of The Force Awakens, right down to the same exact action scenes and camera angles. Not to worry though, because Cassian escapes, takes the fighter to the drop-off point, and promptly gets captured by a bunch.
I think this show in ways looks better than The Force Awakens, which is crazy to me because the sequel trilogy looks phenomenal. And this is a TV show. Granted, huge budget, but it's still a TV show. Like the shots with him in the actual TIE fighter, and you can see the glass panel in front of him, and you see the pattern of the trim in between all the glass pieces, and him just piloting the. Man, it really takes me back to when I used to pretend like, you know, you imagine you were in like some kind of star, especially like a starfighter, man. It's funny that they're having a starfighter movie, but you know, everyone wants to pilot a ship in Star Wars. But like it's those shots are so cool, and the environments are so lived in, and there's so many knickknacks, and it just looks so high quality. Like, the set pieces. I don't know if they use the same technology that they used for Mando with that like dome thing. I don't think they did, because I feel like I can see where that hits. Like the last season of The Mandalorian, or no, it was the Ahsoka show. I could feel like like you could see like all the CGI, and then like one set piece that was a tree, or these set pieces that they don't interact with, they're just in the background or around them. This feels lived in. It really does.
Of retards, and then
I
spends the
really
next 2
appreciate that.
episodes tied up with nothing to do. This right here is what happens when the studio demands an exciting action sequence to kick off your slow-burning political thriller, and you have about a dozen other plot lines that you need to update the audience on. The only choice is to put the main character on ice for a couple of episodes while you get everything else out of the way, and
This is true. I didn't mind it though, because the overall storytelling with the different plot lines of the amount of different characters, like a Game of Thrones style TV show where you have multiple storylines happening at the same time, so you're popping from different location to different location. I do enjoy that a lot, and it definitely I think relieved the aspect that he was stuck on this planet. It really did annoy me because like we didn't really get that whole storyline fleshed out, and obviously I believe this was supposed to be 4 seasons long, and they're doing it in 2. So this season is going to be very time skippy, because they're trying to kind of do 4 different arcs, I believe, or 3 different arcs or something like that, to kind of summarize what would happen in those 4 seasons, or I guess 3 seasons that were left. But yeah, this was a little wacky, the rebels. I think it's a really great way though, because the rebels are very disorganized. It's a great way to show how the rebellion doesn't even know what the rebellion is. And it's showing the nuance of how a rebellion can form in a galactic universe like this. I love it. It's great foundation for the story to come, because we obviously know this is going to Rogue One, right?
it just feels as clunky and contrived as it sounds. Anyway, there's plenty of other things going on.
Yeah, this should be a meme. Like you're playing space rock paper scissors. Yeah, this was kind of goofy when they did this. There's a lot of goofiness in this rebellion, right?
On in this show, like Mon Mothma overseeing her daughter's arranged marriage to the son of a shady financier as part of a political deal to secure funding for the rebellion.
This is
Luthen
believable.
Dealing with a mutinous colleague who's threatening to expose their entire operation. Bix and Brasso hiding out on a remote farm planet while trying to avoid Imperial forces that are closing in. Director Krennic trying to obtain a rare mineral from an influential planet to finish construction of the Death Star. And Cyril having his mother over for dinner.
With every single critique he has, this is all plot development. It's setting the stage for the story, and every single setting has a purpose. You know, there's not one pointless scenario with the beginning of all these different threads in the season that are useless. They all tell a point of the story. Like, for instance, like, we can go through these one by one if we want to. I love talking Star Wars, especially when I love the project. Obviously, setting the stage for the spies and everything, the network with that, with the Senate and stuff like that. Obviously, here we have just the setting of, hey, this is probably the last time we're going to be on this planet, right? I eventually think that Cassian and her are going to probably eventually split up. We have, current characters that are from season 1 that were involved heavily that die off. And we bring in new character or old characters from season 1. So this is a good plot thread. It shows the status of the planet that they've spent a good chunk of time on. And then this is the fucking plot of season 2. Like, what are we talking about? Like, yes, and bro. Yes, I love it.
To obtain a rare mineral from an influential planet to finish construction of the Death Star. And Cyril having his mother over.
Yeah, I forgot about this. Yeah, this goes together with other ones, because the overall progression of Cyril's character is very interesting to me, especially after episode 6. Very interesting, because you think he's one way, and then you have that time skip between 3 and 4. And it's really, you're trying to catch up and figure out what's happening, which is a little jarring, I think. So every time we get a drop of new episodes, I think we're going to have a time skip, which might be a little jarring. I don't know. We'll see. But his character is very intriguing, because you have already a bunch of different rebel-type characters that are going against the Empire, and you have Empire characters that are completely loyal to the Empire. You don't think they're going to budge at all. Then you have a character like him, and you can see how his what kind of person he is, his character development. You can see it, the core foundation of his character with his mother. Like how that's such an easy way, like your relationship with your mother to understanding a character. I do appreciate that touch. It is kind of memeable. But when you have a show that's so well written and everything has a purpose, I'm not trying to glaze it or anything. Like I'm just speaking my mind, bro. Speaking facts.
For dinner.
I'm sorry, but
Yes,
if this is all that Drinker can say right now about the story, I'm feeling pretty good.
that's a thing which happens in this show. Fucking hold your adrenaline in check, boys. Now, it sounds like there's a lot happening in these first 3 episodes, but it's kind of a smokescreen when you really start to think about
All right,
it.
let's think
There's
about it.
definitely a lot of subplots boiling away here, but most of them could have easily been resolved in half the time they actually take.
All right, realistically, tell me how that works, huh? Let's think about
Like
it.
the wedding subplot, for example. The
Okay.
point of this storyline is to show the very personal sacrifice that someone like Mon Mothma is making to help support the rebellion, having to give up her own daughter to an arranged marriage with someone she doesn't even know. Yeah, she's not going out on frontline missions with a blaster in her hand, but she's risking just as much as everyone else. We
Yeah.
get it, and a quick 2-minute summary of the wedding would have been more than enough to bring that point home, but instead the
A 2-minute summary of the wedding. That wouldn't make any fucking sense, bro.
fucking thing is stretched out over 3 whole episodes, with all the tedious ceremonies and establishing shots that we don't need or want, culminating in a rave scene so excruciating that my spinal column had to be surgically reinserted into my
The rave scene lasted 20 seconds, brother.
body afterwards. This is just one example of many where the show stretches out stuff that isn't particularly interesting or important purely for the sake of killing time, and it
I love Drinker because he's funny as hell. I do not like when people grift just to grift, but he that is what he does, right? And I love him for it. And I don't expect anything other than this from Drinker. But really, I think you're dragging out what you can with this show to make an 8-minute video, which by all means, I respect it, bro. I respect the grind and everything like that. I'm reacting to the video. I'm a fan. Love the content he makes. It's fucking hilarious. I think he's the best at it for sure. And especially when there's a lot of bullshit out there and it's just hot garbage. He cooks because it's just so easy to do, and he's already so good at it. But yeah, I think he's stretching things himself.
just feels kinda self-indulgent in a way that the first season never was. Yeah, that one definitely had slow burning plot lines as well, and I'd be lying if I said
Bro,
some
what?
of them couldn't have been wrapped up a little quicker, but they were all in service of a larger story and didn't exist purely for their own
Exactly. You just said it.
sakes. Then there's that scene from episode 3.
Oh,
the one that everyone's
fucking
talking
boy.
about to the exclusion of almost every
This is why everyone I think that I've seen that's reacted to the first 3 episodes, like people have been saying I'm done with this show and stuff like that after this. And I didn't know what was that because there was a lot of people that were pushing this narrative before the because they like pre-watched the first 3 episodes and stuff like that, talking about the embargo lifted and all that kind of stuff, right? I watched everything for myself all the way through, and the scene is dark. Let's see what he's got to say.
everything else in the show. The short version is that Bix gets cornered by an Imperial officer who takes
Yeah.
a liking to her and knows that she's an undocumented worker on the planet, so tries to coerce her into sexual favors in exchange for turning a blind eye. And when she's not up for it, he tries to, use the Force, if you catch my drift.
Yeah, he tries to put himself on her, and like drags her and shit like that. Very eerie scene to watch, and I understand why people don't like this being in Star Wars, because if you think of Star Wars, you think of a family-friendly project. Now, I'm going to be realistic, because I have to be. I've said for the longest time that I wanted Star Wars to be darker. They tried that in the Acolyte. I did not like the direction they went there, because they were, I think it was the writing, the performances, and just the overall direction of what they were trying to do. There's a lot of things from that collab I do like. They pulled a lot of like legend stuff in there, like the bleeding of the lightsaber and stuff like that. But the way they portrayed it was goofy as fuck. I don't know if that's because of the lightsabers they use now. Like you've heard like you and Gregor talk about like They used to use the metal lightsabers when they're fighting, and they would add the effects after. So like it was a really like powerful fight. Like they could really go at it. And now like he talked about the Kenobi show, and he was talking about how well the lightsabers are already pre-lighted. So you get really cool lighting where you can light up one side of the face, but it's kind of goofy looking in my opinion. It looks a little thicker, it looks like a toy. It's because it's actually a fucking toy, you know? And it is what it is. That's just one example of how, you know, the Acolyte looked a little goofy to me. You know, the bleeding the lightsaber, it was just lightsabers in general looked weird to me. This on the other hand, I think it's pretty good. Like this scene is very dark, but the overall arc they're giving her character and the amount of people that can relate to that in the world, like think about of all the IPs where they're actually able to be so grounded and so raw. And you know, I hear people talking about how they don't want things to be censored these days, and they want freedom of speech, and they want freedom of you know, creation, direction, whatever it might be. You know, they're tired of this cancel culture and stuff like that. Well, this, you know, this is a very big step, I think, in Star Wars' favor. And the reason I have to kind of, I have my back against the wall is because I've said multiple times that I want them to make a KOTOR TV show or movie. I would prefer movies because I think that's where Star Wars belongs, but KOTOR is dark because the reason KOTOR is so fucking good, not just because of the storyline, the overall how well written the world is, and aesthetically and everything like that. And it has dirtiness, grittiness. There's a lot of adult themes in that game. It's what you expect Star Wars to be when you realize it's not just for kids, you know? And I always thought that would be like a perfect way to implement like a Game of Thrones style show. This scene would fit in a Game of Thrones style show. I mean, this wouldn't even be like, people wouldn't even bat an eye at this scene. Like if you watch Game of Thrones, you wouldn't bat an eye at this at all. And I understand you don't want that kind of content in Star Wars. I get that. But I want Star Wars, like I want a Game of Thrones style Star Wars, because realistically, if you think about Star Wars, that's how it is. You know, like if it's not like a kid's story, if it's not a specific, if you're just going off of like, if you wanted to make a actual story of Star Wars that was unfiltered, raw, and authentic, it would have that in it. That's what I think, at least. So I think this is a big step for Disney. And they didn't fumble the bag like they did with the Acolyte here, in my opinion. I think they did the writing very well, and the arc they give this character later on, it pays off. And it is hard to watch, and it's supposed to be hard to watch. If you could just watch this and not bat an eye, not grimace a little bit, not like, you know, you might need to go get something checked.
It's a well-shot, well-acted scene that's suitably violent and hard-hitting, and to make it clear, Bix is able to fight him off before he can actually do anything, but people are absolutely losing their shit over it anyway. And who can blame them, after all?
Yeah, people were throwing around the R word heavy. Was he trying to do that? Probably, but he didn't. That didn't happen in this show. It was essay.
Star Wars has always been about wholesome,
and he got his ass
entertainment.
And wham, boy! And look! Can you see it? Let's see if we can see it on here. Yep. I went too quick. The head. You can see the head go the other direction.
Seriously though, I don't think you can really demand a gritty and mature Star Wars show and then pitch a hissy fit when it gives you exactly what you asked for.
Thank you! Oh my god. I watch a lot of Star Wars content. Like I do. Before I'd made YouTube videos, I watch YouTube videos. Like, what are we talking about here? Obviously. And dude, I'm kind of like shocked about how many people like threw a fucking fit over this. I'm like, really? Really, dude?
The reality is that bad stuff like this happens in war, and just because Andor had the balls to actually show it for what it was, doesn't mean it wasn't going on throughout the galaxy already.
I just want to say I'm shocked. I did not think Drinker was going to go this direction. I thought he was going to go the direction with everyone else and grift and shit on it. The guy that is notorious for grifting and shitting on shit just for the sake of shitting on it. This motherfucker is preaching the truth.
Ready. Apparently the age range for this show is like 14 anyway, and if you think for 1 second that your average 14-year-old is going to be even remotely shocked by something as tame as this, then bless your heart, you sweet summer childs. The bigger problem
they're growing up in the 2020s, bro.
Is the lack of engagement. Watching Andor for me is a bit like watching a game of chess where I know what the end result's going to be, and the only question is what pieces are going to get sacrificed along the way. It's definitely interesting on an intellectual level, and I could be impressed by the amount of thought and effort that clearly went into it, but for me there's no real emotional attachment to any of it. I'm not particularly rooting for any of the characters to succeed or fail, because they're all a bit too sterile and detached for me to care about them on that level.
I actually can relate to that point. That is a great point to make, and I didn't really think about that because we obviously know where Cassian's going to be going with Rogue One, right? Now, his girl, I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen to her. There's a lot of characters that are involved, right? The old guy, the old spy guy. I don't have all these names memorized. I'm sorry. I don't get to talk Star Wars often to other people, unfortunately, so I don't have all the names fleshed out and memorized, but Mothma, seeing how her story progresses. It's there's some characters in there that that are going to be down the line. Saw Gerrera, I mean, he's not going to talk about that all because this is the first 3 episodes, but dude, his monologue was fucking insane. His presence was so good, and when I realized he didn't have the mask and he didn't have to like rely on that machine that he had to rely on in Rogue One, I'm like, oh shit, we're gonna see what happens to him. And that whole storyline is intriguing, man. Dude, I want to watch it right now.
And I think a problem like that is going to be very much reflected in the ratings, which were dog shit even for season 1. Much like Skeleton Crew before it, Andor is a show that would probably do...
Yeah, I didn't watch that. It looks like it's Star Wars Goonies. Goonies was a good movie when I was a kid. I'm not the guy that's going to go back and watch Goonies unless my fiance wants to watch that, or our kids or something like that. I'm not the kid movie kind of guy. If I'm watching a kid movie, bro, I'm watching like Pokemon 2000, like I'm watching like anime movies that were really close to my heart, animated movies.
Great if Star Wars was a thriving brand that could afford to expand beyond its core audience and experiment a little with different genres. But after a decade of Disney fuck-ups, it isn't, and so it can't. And I suspect after the controversy of Episode 3 that's divided its already small fan base, it's only going to get worse even as the show itself gets better.
I think the show is going to be a fucking banger, and hopefully that, word of mouth helps this show get as much viewership as possible, because I do think the overall total of the budget for this, what is reported to, that's just what's reported, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to break even on this project, if they're going to make money off this project. I don't even know how the fucking Disney Plus model really even works, honestly. To be frank, it's kind of weird to me, but still, it's gonna be fucking good. Okay, that's all I gotta say. It's fucking good right now.
Because as a concept, I like what Andor is and what it represents. It's having the balls to move Star Wars beyond lightsabers and Skywalkers, telling a complex and challenging story that actually...
I wouldn't even say it's the necessarily moving it past Skywalkers or lightsabers. I think it's just being able to tell it's the ability to tell a good story in Star Wars. That might seem like a very low bar to have, but I think the ability to tell a very good story in TV format or movie format with Star Wars is a mission to be accomplished every single time. And I do not think it is I personally don't think it's something they've accomplished every single time they've made a project. I'm just be straight up. That is the first bar they need to check, and I don't think they did that with Acolyte. He's saying they didn't probably do it with Skeleton Crew. I've heard good things about Skeleton Crew. I've heard normies talk about Skeleton Crew and say it was really good. I don't know. I haven't seen it. There's other shows like Ahsoka, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Boba Fett. last season Mando, some question marks in there for those projects as well. I could do deep dives on what's good and what's bad. That's not what we're doing right now. We're talking about Andor, but
It
still.
requires you to pay attention for once and setting up a world of stakes and consequences that need more than just a girl boss with a laser sword to resolve them. This is the kind of thing we need more of in Star Wars. It might have gotten off to a rocky start, but I'm going to be sticking with Andor until the end. Hopefully, I've got better news when I get to the finale. By the way, we're into the final week of our Trial by Fire Kickstarter, which means two things.
Okay.
One, I'll soon stop pestering you with these annoying ads in my videos, and two, this is our last chance to push hard and complete as many of our stretch goals as possible. We're already well past our initial funding goal, which is awesome, but every little donation gives us a bit more room to maneuver when the cameras start rolling. So if you've been thinking
Trial
about
by
becoming
Fire.
a backer but haven't quite committed yet, now might be the time to take the plunge. As always, the link is in the description, and I'll leave the rest up to you.
Okay.
Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Interesting. I don't even know what that was all about at the very end. But dude, banger video. If you're not following the Critical Drinker, go give him a sub. If you're a Star Wars fan, and you like the Acolyte, you probably don't like this guy. It is what it is. I'm adding my commentary on this because I'm gonna be fair. I say it how it is, how I see it at least. But before we get to the comment section, I do want to talk about the overall Andor itself. I'm shocked you didn't talk about the girls making out scene, because I was sure maybe that was in episode 3 or something like that. I think it was actually or 4. But overall, I think this show has been phenomenal so far. It's gone above my expectations. It really has. I thought it would be a lot more fast paced, and it definitely did pick up in episode 4 through 6. But I think that episode 1 through 3 was good by itself as well. I think the slow pacing, I think it wasn't boring at all. I think they made the cuts where they needed to make cuts. I think they fleshed out the characters where they needed to, and it feels lived in. Everything's really nice and pretty to look at, which is good. I've seen complaints about this show, like when George Lucas made Star Wars, for instance, he wanted to make sure that there was no bolts or no staples, no screws showing. They wanted everything to be clean lines, and they wanted to look futuristic, something that you wouldn't see typically, and in the world that we live in. And I think to that point where people have issues with this, and because there's a lot of, I'm a huge fan of architecture. I love architecture. I could talk about it forever. The architecture I'm loving in this show. It's phenomenal. Whoever was the art direction for the architecture for season 2, dude, it is quite nice. And there's a lot of modern technology or architecture concepts that are blending into the infrastructure of this show, of these worlds, and some people might have a problem with that, but we live in a age where modern architecture is very clean lined. It is all about simplicity. It's all about the tones and shades, they always change and stuff like that, but modern design is very clean now. And it's supposed to be all driven from illusion base, so you don't truly understand it. Like, you see the light coming out of the bottom of something, you don't understand how or where, but it's lighting the area. And a lot of these aspects, like especially like with the windows and the doors and stuff like that, it definitely ties in very well with what they're doing, and it's over the top as well. It's very, very fancy modern design, in my opinion. So it's kind of futuristic in a way. But they also changed the architecture throughout this show, which is very intriguing. Certain parts where it's like Coruscant, and it's like in the, in the gutters, whatever you want to call it, the streets, and a poor atmosphere. They have a poor look, and where it's real fancy, the technology's crazy. Like the end of episode 6 with her leaving the Imperial base or whatever that was, and the doors are closing and opening. It's phenomenal. It looks really cool, and then it pans out to this like one-way mirror, which kind of grounds it again. It's like, okay, this is realistic. They would probably use technology like this still, because it makes sense. Like, what? They're not gonna have some like crazy super technology where it's just a bare wall. It's just a way to blend the architecture. I like it. Some people are going to criticize it and think that it doesn't feel like Star Wars. It feels too lifelike. That's fine. That is completely fine. I can see where that is jarring. For me, it was when they showed the TV and it was just a chrome box TV. I was like, this is ridiculous. This should not be here. Why is this here? That lady, she's got that DJ pad in the fancy store they have, their little secret store, or there's a spy store, whatever you want to call it. And she's like plugging in those little comms and has her little DJ pad. Looks like a DJ pad, a really futuristic one. I think it works though. TV though, don't like the TV. Comment down below what was jarring to you in this show. I'm curious on what y'all have to say. Let's get these comment sections as we do on the ether. Hit that sub button, like button as well to push us out to more people, because I am a small creator. We're trying to get to 1K, and frankly, I've been having technical issues and a lot of issues with life thrown at me lately, so I haven't been able to post as often, and that's going to be changing here. Hopefully the sound quality sounds really good. I got my fan running, but it should sound decent. I listened to it earlier, and the camera quality is the biggest issue. If you watch some of my recent videos, it was glitching all over the place. Well, I didn't know it. I didn't get notified, but the app I was using on my phone was discontinued. So that's why I was having issues and didn't post for so long, because I was waiting for my camera quality to be better, and it never got better. So we upgraded. Okay. First comment is Jade Wolf. Cassian flying the TIE fighter, exactly how I flew anything for the first time in Battlefront, was hilarious. Yeah, the scene was like how I was flying the fucking TIE fighter in Fortnite just a minute ago when I tried out the new battle pass, and that's a lot of fun right now. I might make a video on that. I would love to go in detail on that one. Check out that video. It's probably gonna come out here soon. Dedra versus Cyril's mom was a better duel than anything that ever happened in Kenobi. I think Kenobi did some things very well. I think the fight between Kenobi and Vader was very interesting. I think the what was that black lady's name? I'm not racist. I don't know. The lady with the dreads, the third sister. I forgot her actual name. She had an interesting character development in that story, until she seemed to lose all logic. Yeah, at some point in the story, she just completely loses logic and is a character that gets us from A to B, and it was just very, very annoying, to say the least. Reva, I think is her name, got stabbed twice by Vader. Man. I think the Yavin 4 sequence is an allegory to the rebellion as a whole, about how they are a disorganized mess of young children arguing in the dark while a monster lurks just outside. Yeah, it's very poetic. Now, if you're just watching, like, for instance, when I was first watching it, I was annoyed with the situation, which you're supposed to be annoyed with the situation. You're not annoyed with the show itself. The show wants you to be annoyed because it's demonstrating you how annoying it would be if you were Cassian and you're talking about rebellion and taking down the Empire, and you have a reality check of these fucking idiots. They don't even know who the rebellion is, and they're fighting each other, the people they actually know. It's just, oh my god, it annoyed the crap out of me, but it dialed in that message loud and clear. I think anyone that watches it understands it. They might not be able to articulate it. They might not understand the feeling they felt, and they feel annoyed by the situation, but they're supposed to, right? It's good storytelling, in my opinion. This take is about what I expected for this channel. Yeah, no, it is. There's things I disagree with. I think he couldn't come out.
Get into this.
I honestly, let's be real. If you're a creator and you're a critical drinker, you can't come out and be like, hey, this was good. This was great. You wanna hedge your bets a little bit, and he did that. And he addressed key parts of what I've been seeing people say. And I'm shocked that with his take. So, you know, he's being as truthful as he can be, but in reality, this guy is supposed to be a hater. So if this show flops completely and it has a 180, I'm sure. Boy, my voice just cracked. I'm going through puberty again. That's crazy. I'm sure his episode 4 through 6 will be better. But who knows? Who knows? Everyone has different opinions, and that's what I love about Star Wars, hearing other people's opinions. So comment down below. Let me know what you're hearing, what you're just saying, not what you're hearing. Comment down below with timestamps in the future. If you're new to this channel, I'm going to be talking about Star Wars a lot more, and there will be a video probably talking about why that is. This is already a 40-minute video on an 8-minute reaction. I could talk Star Wars all day. So I'm going to call it here. But yeah, my name is Trey Swish. This is the eethur. Hit that sub button. Let's get to 1K. Let's keep on pushing past that. Let's, get this video, I don't know, 25 likes. That'd be nice. And yeah, dude, I'll see you guys in the next one. Deuces.